There's a moment, and if you've experienced it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where everything changes. It's not loud, it's not dramatic. In fact, most people miss it entirely because they're looking for something else. They're waiting for the big gesture, the perfect line, the right timing. But that's not how it works. What actually happens is much quieter. It's a shift, a subtle recalibration in how two people experience each other. And once it happens, everything that follows feels almost inevitable. The conversation flows differently. The energy between you changes. What felt uncertain suddenly feels like it has momentum. But here's what makes this interesting. The shift doesn't happen to someone. It happens inside someone. And the person who creates the conditions for that shift usually has no idea they're doing it. They're just being a certain way, existing in a certain frequency, showing up with a particular quality of presence that allows something to unlock in the other person. This is what I want to explore today. Not techniques, not tactics, not the surface-level advice that floods the internet and rarely produces real results. I want to talk about what's actually happening beneath all of that, the deeper mechanics of how attraction actually forms between two people. Because once you understand this, everything else starts to make sense. Let me start by asking you a question. Think about the last time you felt genuinely drawn to someone. Not just noticed them, not just found them attractive in a surface-level way, but actually drawn to them. Something about them pulled at your attention in a way that felt almost involuntary. You wanted to know more. You wanted to be closer. You found yourself thinking about them when they weren't around. What was happening there? If you try to break it down logically, you'll probably come up with a list of surface-level attributes. They were good-looking, they were funny, they seemed confident, they dressed well, they had an interesting job. But none of that really captures it, does it? Because you've met plenty of good-looking, funny, confident, well-dressed people with interesting jobs who did absolutely nothing for you. The attraction just wasn't there. So what was different about this person? The difference isn't in what they had, it's in what they created. When someone is genuinely compelling, not performing, not trying, just being, they create an atmosphere around themselves, a kind of energetic space that other people can feel, even if they can't articulate it. It's like walking into a room and immediately sensing that something is different. The air feels different. Your attention orients differently. You become more alert, more present, more curious. And when you step into that space, something happens inside you. Your nervous system starts to shift. Your guard comes down slightly. The social masks you usually wear start to feel less necessary. You become more yourself paradoxically, in the presence of someone who is fully themselves. This is the foundation of everything that follows. Not techniques, not strategies, not memorized sequences of behavior, just the creation of an atmosphere that allows another person to experience themselves differently. And here's what most people get completely wrong. They think attraction is something you do to someone else, something you manufacture through the right combination of words and actions. They think if they can just find the right approach, the right opener, the right sequence of moves, they can make someone feel attracted to them. But that's backwards. That's completely backwards. Attraction is something that happens inside another person when certain conditions are met. Your job isn't to make someone attracted to you. Your job is to create the conditions where attraction becomes possible, where it can emerge naturally, where the other person's own psychology does the work for you. The distinction sounds subtle, but it changes everything about how you approach this. Let's talk about what those conditions actually look like. And I want to be clear, these aren't steps you follow in order. They're more like dimensions of presence that all need to be operating simultaneously. When they are, the shift happens. When they're not, it doesn't matter how hard you try. The first dimension is something I call unattached presence. This is harder to achieve than it sounds because most people, when they're around someone they're interested in, become immediately attached to outcomes. They want this to go well. They want to be liked. They want something to happen. They want validation. They want connection. They want to not feel rejected. And all of that wanting, even when it's completely internal, even when you think you're hiding it well, creates a kind of pressure. Subtle, but palpable. The other person can feel it, even if they can't name what they're feeling. There's something in your energy that's reaching toward them, asking for something, hoping for something. You know what this feels like when you're on the receiving end? Someone is talking to you, but they're not really with you. They're ahead of themselves, already thinking about where this might go, already monitoring the interaction for signs of success or failure, already calculating their next move. There's a quality of reaching in their presence, an invisible hand extending toward you, asking for something you haven't offered yet. When you feel that, what happens? You pull back. Not consciously, not dramatically, just a slight retraction of energy, a subtle closing of the openness that might otherwise have been there. You become slightly more guarded, slightly more careful, slightly less willing to let yourself feel anything. This is completely natural, completely automatic. It's your system protecting itself from being pulled into someone else's agenda. Now contrast that with what happens when someone is genuinely unattached. They're interested in you. That much is clear. There's warmth there, attention, engagement. But their sense of self isn't riding on how this interaction goes. They're enjoying the conversation, enjoying your company, but they'd be perfectly fine if it went nowhere. They're not performing for a result. They're just present. There's no pressure, no agenda, no invisible hand reaching toward you. Just two people sharing a moment without either of them needing it to be anything other than what it is. In that space, something remarkable happens. Your defenses relax, you become more curious, more willing to lean in, more open to actually feeling something, because there's nothing to protect yourself from. No one is trying to take anything from you. You can just be. This is the paradox that confuses so many people. The less you need a specific outcome, the more likely you are to get it. But here's the key. This absolutely cannot be faked. You can't pretend to be unattached while secretly being desperate. Other people's nervous systems are too sophisticated for that. They're reading you at a level that's far below conscious awareness. They pick up on incongruence instantly, even if they can't name what they're sensing. The only way to actually embody unattached presence is to, well, actually be unattached, which means doing the internal work of building a life that doesn't depend on any single person or outcome for its sense of meaning and fulfillment. It means having genuine options, or at least genuine contentment with your life as it is. It means being okay, actually okay, not performatively okay, with things not working out. This is why the advice to just be confident is so unhelpful. Confidence isn't something you can just decide to have. It's a byproduct of having done the deeper work of building a self that doesn't need external validation to feel okay. That work can't be skipped. And until it's done, all the techniques in the world won't help you. The second dimension is what I think of as depth without disclosure. Most people, when they're trying to connect with someone, fall into one of two traps. Either they stay entirely on the surface, safe topics, pleasant conversation, nothing that reveals anything real about who they are, or they overshare, dumping their life story and emotional baggage onto someone they barely know. Neither of these creates attraction. The first creates boredom. The second creates discomfort. And yet these are the two modes most people default to, because they don't know there's a third option. You can be deep without being heavy. You can reveal substance without revealing everything. You can give someone the sense that there's much more to you than what they're currently seeing. Layers they haven't accessed yet, depths they haven't explored, without overwhelming them with premature intimacy. This is actually more about how you communicate than what you communicate. Someone can talk about completely ordinary topics, their work, their weekend, their opinions about random things, and still convey depth. It's in the thoughtfulness behind their words, the sense that they've actually reflected on their own experience rather than just living on autopilot. The occasional glimpse of vulnerability that suggests there's a real human being in there, not just a performance of one. It's in the pauses, the moments where you let something land instead of rushing to fill the silence. The willingness to sit with a question before answering it. The ability to say, "I don't know," without it diminishing you. What this does for the other person is fascinating. It activates their curiosity in a way that surface-level interaction never could. They start wanting to know more. They start filling in the gaps with their imagination. They start investing mental and emotional energy in trying to understand you. And here's the thing about investment. Once someone starts investing in you, their attention, their curiosity, their imagination, they become more attached to you. Not because you manipulated them into it, but because that's just how human psychology works. We value what we invest in. We care about what we've spent energy on. We become curious about puzzles we haven't solved yet. The mistake people make is either giving everything away too quickly, which removes the mystery and the opportunity for investment, or revealing nothing at all, which gives the other person nothing to invest in. The sweet spot is strategic incompleteness. Enough to intrigue, not enough to satisfy. Enough to suggest depth, not enough to fully map it. The third dimension is something I've started calling comfortable dissonance. Let me explain what I mean by that, because it's counterintuitive. When two people first meet, there's a certain script that usually gets followed. Predictable questions, predictable answers, predictable patterns of behavior. Everyone knows their role. Everyone stays within the expected boundaries. The conversation flows along well-worn grooves that millions of similar conversations have carved before. This is comfortable, but it's also completely forgettable. Nothing about it activates the deeper parts of the brain that are responsible for attraction and connection. It's just two people going through the motions, performing the ritual of getting to know each other without actually getting to know each other. You could replace either person with someone else, and the conversation would go almost exactly the same way. Now, what happens when someone breaks that script? Not in an aggressive way, not in a socially inappropriate way, just subtly deviating from what's expected, saying something surprising, responding in an unexpected way, introducing a little friction into an otherwise frictionless interaction. The other person's brain wakes up. Suddenly they have to pay attention. Suddenly they can't predict what's coming next. Suddenly the interaction has become interesting in a way that most interactions aren't. They're no longer on autopilot. They're present, engaged, alert. This is what I mean by comfortable dissonance. You're introducing enough unpredictability to capture attention, but not so much that you create anxiety. You're keeping the other person slightly off balance, but in a way that feels intriguing rather than threatening. You're different enough to be memorable, but not so different that you seem unstable or unsafe. The mistake people make is going to one of two extremes. Either they're too safe, completely predictable, easy to categorize, forgettable, just another version of everyone else, or they're too chaotic, creating so much uncertainty that the other person's nervous system goes into protection mode. The first is boring. The second is exhausting. Neither creates attraction. The sweet spot is that space in between, where there's just enough unpredictability to maintain engagement, but enough consistency to maintain trust, where the other person doesn't quite know what to expect from you, but feels safe enough to stick around and find out, where you're a puzzle they want to solve, rather than a threat they need to manage. This doesn't require being weird or provocative. It can be as simple as giving a thoughtful answer to a question that usually gets a throwaway response, or asking a question that no one has asked them before, or having an opinion that doesn't fit neatly into the categories people expect. Small deviations from the script that signal, there's something different here. This might be worth paying attention to. The fourth dimension is what I call directive energy. This is a delicate topic because it gets misunderstood easily, but it's also absolutely essential, so I want to address it carefully and thoroughly. In any interaction between two people, there's a certain dance of energy happening beneath the surface. One person tends to be leading, the other following. One person tends to be setting the frame, the other operating within it. One person tends to be creating the structure of the interaction, the other filling that structure with their participation. This isn't about dominance or submission in any crude sense. It's just the natural dynamics of how human beings interact. What creates attraction, and this is consistent across contexts, across genders, across cultures, is when someone demonstrates the ability to lead without forcing, to set direction without controlling, to have a clear sense of what they want and where they're going, while remaining genuinely responsive to the other person's preferences and boundaries. This is the opposite of the "let's see where things go" passivity that many people default to. That kind of passivity isn't actually neutral. It doesn't create space for possibility. It just shifts the burden of direction onto the other person, which usually doesn't feel good for them. It makes them feel like they're doing all the work. Like they're the only one investing energy into making something happen. Like they're the only one who actually wants anything. Directive energy, by contrast, communicates something very different. It says, "I know what I want, I'm clear about where I'm going, and I'm inviting you to come with me if that appeals to you." There's clarity in it, confidence, purpose, but also genuine receptivity. The direction is offered, not imposed. The invitation is real. They can decline it without consequence. When someone experiences this, it creates a feeling of relief. They don't have to figure out what's happening. They don't have to carry the interaction. They don't have to guess what you want or try to read your mind. They can just relax into the flow that's already been established and participate from that place. This is incredibly attractive. Clarity is attractive. Direction is attractive. Being around someone who knows what they want and isn't afraid to move toward it is attractive. It creates a sense of being in capable hands, of being with someone who has things handled, of not having to work so hard just to make the basic mechanics of interaction function. But again, and I can't stress this enough, it cannot be faked. If you're performing directiveness while actually being terrified of rejection, that incongruence will come through. The person will sense that your confidence is a mask, and it will create exactly the opposite effect of what you're going for. They'll feel the gap between what you're projecting and what you're actually experiencing, and that gap will make them trust you less, not more. The fifth dimension is perhaps the most important, and also the most overlooked: emotional regulation. Here's what I mean by that. Every interaction between two people is also an exchange of emotional states. Nervous systems are not isolated. They're constantly reading each other, constantly influencing each other, constantly syncing up or pulling apart. When you're around someone who's anxious, some of that anxiety transfers to you. When you're around someone who's calm and grounded, some of that calm transfers to you. This is just how human beings work. It's built into our biology. Now, what this means for attraction is profound. If you're internally chaotic, anxious, needy, reactive, emotionally unstable, that chaos radiates outward and affects everyone around you. It doesn't matter how good-looking you are. It doesn't matter how well you perform. It doesn't matter how perfectly you execute all the techniques you've learned. People can feel that chaos, and it makes them feel chaotic too, which doesn't feel good, which makes them want to get away from you, even if they can't articulate why. They might not know that they're feeling your anxiety. They just know that being around you doesn't feel quite right. Something is off. Something is unsettling. And so they pull back, not because you did anything wrong on the surface, but because your internal state was creating an experience for them that they didn't want to have. On the other hand, if you're internally regulated, calm, centered, emotionally stable, at peace with yourself, that regulation radiates outward too. Being around you feels good. People relax in your presence. Their nervous systems settle. They experience themselves as more calm and centered when they're with you than when they're not. This is incredibly attractive, not because you're doing anything specifically, just because being around you feels better than being around most people. Your regulated nervous system becomes a gift you give to everyone who enters your space. You become a safe harbor in a chaotic world. And here's the compounding effect. When someone feels better around you, they start associating those good feelings with you. Their brain starts making you the cause of how they feel. Even though you're not doing anything to them, you're just being regulated and allowing them to co-regulate in your presence. They experience you as the source of their positive emotional state. This is one of the most powerful dynamics in human attraction, and almost no one talks about it. Everyone's focused on what to say, what to do, how to behave. But the deeper question, the one that actually determines outcomes, is, what does it feel like to be in your presence? What emotional experience are you creating for the other person just by being there? If you can answer that question honestly, and if you don't like the answer, that's where the real work begins. Not learning new techniques, not memorizing new scripts, but developing the capacity to regulate your own nervous system so thoroughly that your presence becomes inherently calming, inherently attractive, inherently valuable. Let's pull all of this together. The shift that happens when attraction clicks isn't magical. It's not random. It's not luck or chemistry or some inexplicable phenomenon that either happens or doesn't. It's the result of specific conditions being present. Conditions that create a space where another person can feel safe enough, intrigued enough, and engaged enough to actually open up to the possibility of feeling something. Those conditions are unattached presence, depth without disclosure, comfortable dissonance, directive energy, and emotional regulation. None of these are techniques you can apply superficially. You can't fake any of them. They're all ways of being that require genuine internal development, which is frustrating for people who want quick fixes and easy answers and magic words that will make someone like them. There's no such thing. There's never been such a thing. But it's also liberating, because it means the path to being more attractive is the same as the path to becoming a more complete, grounded, self-aware human being. It means the work you do on yourself isn't separate from the results you want in this area of life. It's the direct cause of those results. It means you don't have to become someone else or learn to perform in ways that feel inauthentic. You just have to become more fully yourself, more deeply yourself, more expressed as yourself. You don't have to memorize scripts. You don't have to perform. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. You just have to do the deeper work of becoming someone whose presence naturally creates the conditions for connection. Here's what's interesting about this framework. It applies regardless of context. Whether you're meeting someone for the first time or you've known them for years, whether you're trying to spark something new or reignite something old, whether you're young or not so young, whether you consider yourself naturally charismatic or socially awkward, the underlying principles remain exactly the same. Because attraction isn't really about you impressing the other person. It's not about proving your value or demonstrating your worth or convincing them that you're good enough. It's about you creating a space where they can feel something, where they can experience themselves differently, where they can access parts of themselves that usually stay dormant in ordinary interactions. When you understand this, everything changes. You stop trying to prove yourself. You stop performing. You stop treating attraction like a puzzle to be solved through the right combination of moves or a game to be won through superior strategy. Instead, you focus on the only thing you can actually control, who you're being and what it feels like to be in your presence. The rest takes care of itself. Understanding these conditions doesn't mean forcing anything to happen. It simply means recognizing what actually creates the space for attraction to emerge, and knowing that when you embody these qualities, something shifts in how people experience you. But here's what's interesting. Once that shift begins, it doesn't stay invisible. It starts to show up in behavior, often in ways the other person isn't even aware of. There are small, almost imperceptible things that happen when someone's mind starts going to certain places. Subtle changes in how they look at you, in how they position themselves, in what they say and don't say. Most of these signals fly completely under the radar because they don't look like what people expect attraction to look like. The next video breaks down exactly what those behaviors are. The innocent, easy to miss signs that someone is already imagining more than they're saying out loud.